online. People wanted to see it. Speaking of people that wanted us to want to hate this, no one wanted to see this match ever. This was on Monday Night Raw live national television. This match.
Oh, good lord!
This was supposed to build up the whole Vince McMahon versus Donald Trump shit. The fake Rosie versus fake Donald match on live fucking television. Dan, what do you know about how we got to that point?
So this is around the time that so this is early 2007.
Yes.
And
before the Trump hate, by the way.
Yes, before the Trump hate. But in real life, I believe at that time, Vince and Donald Trump were good friends.
Yeah, they were good friends, and Trump was portrayed as the babyface.
Yes, he was. But this was also shortly before the real life Donald Trump would make several appearances on WWE TV.
Yeah.
Including at WrestleMania 23, which was just a couple months after this. Because this was right before the whole Battle of the Billionaires, main match at WrestleMania. And, which really set a weird downward spiral in the Vince McMahon character, by the way.
Yeah, at the same time, Umaga and Lashley wasn't terrible either.
No, the match was fine.
At least it wasn't Trump versus Vince at WrestleMania.
But you know, that whole rivalry led to the Vince McMahon death angle that they ultimately had to scrap.
Yeah.
Due to another real life death that we will not mention.
And the thing with the Trump stuff, this is back when Trump's only feud at the time, because he was also still actively doing The Apprentice.
Yes.
Was Rosie O'Donnell. Rosie O'Donnell was pushing up against him. She was she was pushing the liberal agenda against Donald Trump, and he would say things like she was a fat cow and making fun of her on live television constantly while she was doing the same thing on a talk show towards him. And that led to what Vince thought was a great idea, because he was besties with Trump at the time still.
Yes, he was.
Was he thought, well, we're going to portray a Rosie O'Donnell as fat, lazy slob, shaving the other's head. Yeah, it led to like Vince McMahon shaving his head, which actually was really funny.
Do-rag Vince. We got do-rag.
We got do-rag Vince that took over ECW and ruined that too.
Yeah. Him winning the ECW title is what.
Like him losing to Donald Trump made a trickle effect that we did not think would be so bad.
It killed the brand. And then when he lost the title, he basically went into like a downward mental spiral.
Actually.
Literally. And because he wanted to, in real life, he wanted to he didn't want to be on TV anymore. He wanted to kill off the character and just do behind the scenes and nothing else. Well, anyway, that's a whole other story for a different. But during this mentioned match between the fake Donald Trump and the fake Rosie O'Donnell,
they did get real wrestlers to do this. To be fair,
they did.
The problem was the fake Rosie O'Donnell specifically had been retired for years due to knee injury.
Yes.
The male competitor was a guy that he thought he was going to get a big push and a big call up at that point. He didn't end up getting it. Is CM Punk's bestie and trainer, Ace Steel, played Donald Trump.
That is right, yes. Also, Ace Steel was, I believe, part of the whole Young Bucks Elite thing, backstage thing.
Look, Ace Steel does not have a good history.
No, he doesn't.
But he did train guys like CM Punk. He was involved in a lot of the Ring of Honor stuff. He was actually a part of some of the early days of TNA as well, competing against the likes of like AJ Styles with Mortimer Plumtree as his manager.
Oh my god, that's right.
So Ace Steel had probably a better TNA run than he did for this company, which isn't saying a lot.
No, but anyway, they went through all of the.
That is not Rosie O'Donnell.
No, it is not. They went through that. They went through all of the tropes that they could have.
Yes.
Like they did the whole like Rosie O'Donnell being overweight thing.
Coming out to like the fat guy trombone music.
Yes, they did that. They had her go out and eat cake in the middle of the match. They had her go out and eat cake. They had a cake at ringside for whatever reason. And they had her go out and eat a piece of cake with her hands in the middle of the match.
This is
not like like, oh, let's eat this with a fork, like, civilized people.
Like civilized people.
No, we don't do that. No, we think Rosie O'Donnell.
She was eating it like with her hands, like a fucking animal.
Yes, no, we think Rosie O'Donnell's
we think she's a fat slob. But fake Trump's music was like a grandiose, like he's a real American hero song.
I'm surprised he didn't come out to Real American by the Hulk Hogan song.
He should have. He should have.
I thought it would.
I am a real American.
That would have been funny.
He comes out flexing like Hulk Hogan,
like waving an American flag, like the whole thing, doing the Hogan pose.
I'm really surprised they didn't do that. I'm honestly shocked.
That would have been really hilarious.
That would have actually made it better.
But, you know what's weird about this? We actually get a couple of wrestling moves here.
Because they're actually wrestlers.
Well, yes, but you don't expect this because of who they're portraying.
Yes,
but you've got a couple headlocks. I think you got a couple little moves in there.
Yeah,
but
it's 7.5 minutes long too.
Okay, but that's a stretch because really the only amount of the contact between them was probably only about like a minute and a half. The other 6 minutes were dedicated to pandering to the crowd, and Rosie eating cake.
And really, the only person this was entertaining was Vince McMahon.
Yes,
Vince McMahon loved this shit. By the way, Vince McMahon when Ace Steel went to the back, he praised Ace Steel for portraying Donald Trump exactly how he wanted.
Vince, by this point, Vince was starting to go.
At this point, this is 2007.
Which, by the way, this was only 1 year after Vince proposed the storyline where he would be the father of Stephanie McMahon, of his own daughter's child.
Vince was still prominent for another 15, 16 years after this.
That is insane to me.
It was such a long downturn for him.
That's insanity. But
and
the fact that this match, the fact that this match got even booked. See, by this point, Vince was just kind of booking for an audience of one.
Yeah, he did that a few times. He did it like previously. He did that with the Lakers versus the Denver Nuggets thing because he felt snubbed by the Denver Nuggets. So he made all the heels wear Denver Nuggets jerseys. And
all the baby faces, which would be like John Cena, Batista.
And he made them all wear Lakers
Randy
jerseys.
Orton.
And that was actually the beginning of the end of Mr. Kennedy, too.
Oh, no, Mr. Kennedy was supposed to be a baby face in that match, wasn't he? Mm-hmm. And that was the final match Mr. Kennedy ever had in the company.
I believe so, yeah.
It is, because he did a hip toss or something to Randy Orton.
Yep.
Orton landed awkwardly, went and complained to Vince, and Vince fired Kennedy over it.
Orton and Cena, apparently. Yeah.
Well, him taking a
Cena was backing up Orton.
Cena throwing a hip toss to Mr. Kennedy was how he tore his pec in 2007.
Yes.
And had to drop the title.
Yeah.
He had to vacate the WWE
This whole
title.
thing connects to Vince being a petty bitch.
Yes, it does.
It's like the fact that it ends with with cake being thrown in Rosie O'Donnell's face.
Yes.
And then fake Trump picking up the win by not a headbutt, a hair butt. Because the hair.
Well,
he hit Rosie O'Donnell with his fake hairpiece and got the win.
It's made of titanium, considering it's the Trumper, but
I will say that Ace Steel did his best.
I actually did not mind Ace Steel's performance.
He did pretty much exactly what I expected from Donald Trump.
I just think it was super upsetting to see how they portrayed Rosie O'Donnell, but
it's super upsetting they had this match on live television at all.
Yes. And the fact that you expect Jim Ross to call this.
Yeah, Jim Ross was on the call, and he could not care any less.
And he was just like, "Oh, what is this? I don't understand."
You hear him talking about it, he's like, "What is? Can we end this madness now?" And then the headbutt comes like, "Mercilessly, it's over." Like, JR hated every second of this.
And while King's sitting there just laughing. He's just laughing at everything.
What's King gonna do? He can't color commentate on that.
No.
What's he gonna say?
You can't. There's nothing. It's like, oh, that was the best wrestling maneuver I've ever seen. No, it was not.
Like, what could they possibly say to this?
Now,
this is the worst match to date that we've ever seen.
yes. Now, what is the worst? It is the worst. It's worse than Maxine.
It's worse than Caitlyn versus Maxine because they're rookies.
Yes.
We expected nothing out of them.
And we got less.
It's worse than AJ versus Cameron because AJ's good.
AJ is good.
These two did not do good at all.
Now,
at any
Caitlyn
point.
and Maxine, what star rating did I give?
-2.
Alright, I'm giving him minus... Oh. You know what? Can I... No, I'm going to give it a... I'm going to give it a minus... Let's give it a -4. I'm going to be really, like...
Because there might be one that's worse than this somewhere out there. We haven't found it yet.
Maybe. -4.
We're not going to do indie matches because that'd be too long.
Yeah.
We have a list way too long as it is.
We do. But -4, and it is the worst match of of what we've watched so far.
Oh my god. I can't believe that was ever a thing. I forgot all about it until I looked it up. Literally forgot. I watched it on television as a kid too. I was a senior in high school for that match, Dan.
In 2007.
I
was in...
You were a child, I know.
Wait a minute. Wait. This is January 07. I would have been in grade 1.
Yes,
I was just turned 7 years old.
I think...
I wasn't actually watching...
And how old are you now again?
24.
Yeah.
This was 17 years ago.
So I was just turning 17 when this came out. I was old enough to know that this is terrible.
So I had not actually, for context, I had not actually started watching wrestling yet at this point. It would be another 2 years before I would start watching wrestling.
Some of these matches Dan didn't really know about until we started doing this show.
Yeah, like the like most of these. Honestly, the 2 women's matches that we did, I didn't even know they existed.
Well, because one aired on NXT.
One was on NXT, which I believe it was online only, actually.
Yes, online exclusive show at the time.
AJ Lee, which, by the way, by 2014, I didn't care anymore.
I didn't either. TNA was shit, WWE was shit, I stopped watching.
By 2014, I didn't care.
Because I was actively...
Rumble 15, I knew what happened, because obviously it's the Rumble, you know what happened.
And
by the way, we haven't even reviewed
in the mid-2000s, I was strictly pretty much only TNA, because it was the only good product on TV.
Right, and I only really knew WWE. I'd watched a bit of TNA because a buddy of mine.
And I was older in high school too. Like it was starting to become a kids product in WWE. TNA was the edgier product. It was better for older kids.
And I was able to watch more of TNA when I first started watching wrestling in 2009 because
it re-aired on Spike on a Friday.
It was on a Thursday night.
Yeah,
it was on a Thursday night because my dad. I was always at my dad's on Mondays, and so I could never watch Raw. Okay. And my dad never let me stay up late enough to watch Raw, and they didn't want to.
Oh, but your mom did.
But my mom didn't. Well, on a Thursday night, she didn't mind.
Okay.
So, my buddy at the time, he lived a couple floors up from me in an apartment building. He got me into wrestling, and yeah, you can thank him for this for the extensive knowledge that I have.
Yeah, your retaining of knowledge is incredible.
Yeah, but we would sit and watch Impact. Like, he had this tiny little TV, probably about like the size of your computer.
And
screen.
Spike did a good job at always re-airing TNA that week.
Yeah,
because you could watch it all weekend.
And we would watch Impact on Thursday nights because I was always at my mom's on a Thursday night, and I could just sit and watch TNA with them.
And they would replay it at midnight if you were up on a Friday. If you're up on a Friday and you played it at midnight, if you're up at midnight, they replayed it because they also did that a lot before pay-per-view time too. Yeah. So you never miss an Impact show.
Right, and I remember my first major memory was actually when I first met him. I like walked. My mom had brought me up to their apartment and to introduce me to this other kid, and so he introduced me to his mom first, and his mom's like, "Oh, he's in his room. Like, we can go and see him." He's watching an episode. I think it was a Raw replay. I don't remember what day. This was on like a Wednesday or Thursday. I think he was watching like a Raw replay, or they recorded it or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I remember the main event. He had the main event on. It was John Cena, Triple H and Seth Green, like Seth Green teaming up against the Legacy, which would have been Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, and Ted DiBiase Jr.
Who's worse, Ted DiBiase Jr. or Seth Green as a wrestler?
Oh no, Ted DiBiase Jr. was actually not that bad. As a wrestler, he wasn't awful.
No, he just had no charisma at all.
He had absolutely zero.
He was better
charisma.
than the original Legacy member they had in there, was Manu.
I think at the time he was a better wrestler than Cody was, but Cody had much more charisma.
Oh yeah, Cody was not quite.
But Cody wasn't allowed to have charisma until he became Dashing Cody Rhodes, which was a little while later.
Yeah, quite a bit later. Yeah,
which was 2010.
Yeah,
like he became Dashing Cody Rhodes, which is when he really started to come into his own as like a solid top tier guy. But they never wanted to push him beyond mid card.
No,
until he came back a couple years ago, and they kind of were like,
"Well, he had time to hone his craft, right? He went to Impact. He helped start AEW,
I think, too.
Yeah, that's where he met guys like Eli Drake, which became LA Knight.
Right. So. But I remember my first major memory was he had a burned copy back when we used to burn DVDs.
Remember that, kids?
Well, he had a burned copy of WrestleMania 24, which was 2008. Which was about a year before I started watching wrestling, and he let me borrow it, and I remember watching it, and the match that stuck out to me was Shawn Michaels and Ric Flair.
Yes, okay.
Career-threatening match is what they called it.
Oh, that's right. It was like Ric Flair, if he lost the match, he was done.
Yeah, because he had a storyline for about 4 months at this point, that because he'd come out on Raw in November 2007. And he was like, I'm never going to retire. And then Vince comes out.
Which ended up being way more true than it should have been.
And Vince comes out and is like, all right, you won't retire as long as you keep winning matches. The next time you lose a match, your career is over.
He wrestled for 16 more years.
Kinda.
Well,
we choose not to remember that. But
he had a match in TNA.
We don't remember. He had a few matches in TNA. We don't remember this. It didn't happen. Never happened.
Just like you didn't know Mick Foley was world champion in TNA until I told you recently.
I actually did not know. I also choose to forget that Shawn Michaels wrestled in Saudi Arabia. We don't remember
because he was Bald Michaels. It doesn't count.
Doesn't
Bald
count.
Michaels doesn't count.
It's a different person. It's a stunt double.
It's Bald Michaels. It doesn't count.
No. It's not even Shawn Michaels. It's
Mayor Glenn Jacobs and Michael Hickenbottom.
Yes, that's what it is. It's not Shawn Michaels.
With Mark Calloway and Paul Levesque.
It's not Shawn Michaels. It's Shawn Michaels' last match was against The Undertaker at WrestleMania 26.
And that's canon, damn it. It was almost against Grayson Waller.
Oh my god, yeah, I forgot that he almost fought
People
Grayson
teased
Waller.
that for a while. I was like, oh shit, Michaels is going to come out of retirement to super kick Grayson Waller. That almost happened, and Michaels was like, "No, I'm not wrestling again. I'm done." He's one of those guys. He's one of those guys who was like, "No, I'm done. I'm not doing it."
He is almost 60.
You forget how much older he is to Triple H. To be honest,
he's not that much older than Triple H. He's maybe 5 years.
He does have more mileage though.
Well, yeah, he wrestled a lot longer.
Yeah,
he started wrestling in the mid '80s, and he wrestled until 2010.
And he was considered the fast-paced little guy that was tossed around by big dudes too.
Right.
He took a lot more heavy bumps. He was the high flyer. He took a lot more heavy bumps.
Yeah, you watch some of his early matches with Taker. It was
yeah,
first Hell in a Cell match. He took unprotected chair shots. He got
Unreal.
thrown head first into the cell. He got thrown through an announce table. He got knocked off of the side of the cell through an announce table.
That bump in the casket that cost him years of his career.
Which a lot of people say he was karma for what happened with Brett. But
I mean, I don't like saying that about people at all. Michaels was a shitty person, and you know what? The injury did make him a better person somehow.
It did.
But
I
wouldn't wish it upon anyone. I don't wish Ryback ill will because he's a douchebag.
No. If I can make a very hot take, which it might not be a hot take.
Oh boy!
If I can make a hot take, I personally believe that if Shawn never injures his back, he'd be dead right now.
Because he was a partier too, a heavy partier.
See,
with his buddies of the clique too,
because that back injury and those 4 years away, it opened his eyes. It opened his eyes to realize that. He was not making good choices.
Yep.
He was taking way too many drugs, doing all the partying, and it opened him up to he got clean. He found religion.
He's been sober for almost 30 years
since 2001. Yeah. He hasn't taken drugs since 2001.
That's amazing. And you know what? Like, I'm not a religious person, but it seemed like it genuinely saved Shawn Michaels' life.
That injury saved his life, in my opinion. I think if he never got injured, I think he'd be dead right now.
Yeah.
I don't think. I think he
would. We wouldn't have the great NXT we have right now
without his injury. We also wouldn't have had that amazing second run. Now, also, how does this affect? I mean, obviously, I think that's a video for another time. Actually.
We have plenty of ideas for stuff. Eventually, we'll do other we'll have more time to do things, especially when Dan's not working 2 jobs.
I like a wrestling what if series. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, we could definitely do that.
What if Shawn never gets injured? What if Austin never injures his neck?
What if Owen Hart never died?
What if Owen Hart never died? What if
because he was supposed to join his brother at some point after that contract
in WCW? Yeah. And
what if Brett never got injured by Goldberg?
Ooh. What if the screw job never happened?
Yeah. Does Brett just go? Does Michaels ever get the same heat he would ever have gotten?
Well, I can tell you one thing: this show would have a different name.
That too. Well, and on top of that, Shawn Michaels probably wouldn't have been as notorious as a heel without it.
No,
and the Vince McMahon character was born because of that incident.
How does